Welcome to Base to Base Military Homeschooling, the podcast sponsored by Military Homeschoolers Association. It is designed specifically for military homeschoolers navigating the unique challenges of educating our children while moving to new communities every 2 to 3 years. I'm your host, Natalie Mack, and I know firsthand the challenges and rewards of homeschooling while on the move. So, where in the large world of military homeschooling are we today? Listen in to our incredible guest. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Base to Base. I am Natalie Mack. I'm the founder of Military Homeschoolers Association, and this is another amazing episode with Base to Base Military Homeschooling Podcast. We have a fabulous guest today, and I probably say that each time because each guest is really special, and we are always honored to have those of you who have said, yes, I would love to speak and pour into the military homeschool community. And so we have today Joel Ribbey of J.E. Ribbey authorship, and we'll get into deep dive about him and about his wife and the authorship and the books and all the things. And so if you are as excited as I am, you can comment in the comments later. That would be amazing. And so Mr. Ribbey, thank you so much for being a guest here on Base to Base. We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to get started with just share, if you don't mind, a little bit for those who may be not familiar with you, with your books, with your wife, your service to, to the whole educational space with your authorship, your series and all. Just share a little bit, please, about yourself, wife, children, those kinds of things.
Sure. I was active duty military for 4 years, stationed in Fort Hood. And then during that time, I served 15 months in Afghanistan. And that was an eye opener.
Yes.
It's not like the video games, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Yes.
Really hard on both the servicemen and the families. I think being in the military is probably one of the only jobs where like the family is signing up too. It's not just the servicemen, it's the family for sure.
Yes.
That gets signed up as well and has to commit as well. You mentioned I have a wonderful wife who's also the editor of my books. So if you ever want to test a marriage, have your wife be your editor. And if it survives that, you're probably going to make it. But
I love that.
Yep. And then we have 4 kids, 12 to 18 right now. So, and we have homeschooled them from the beginning. So
wow, that's awesome. 4 kids. Okay, fabulous. We have 5, and I just finished homeschooling our 5th to college, and I feel like those 23 years just flew by. Like, it's
way
hard.
too fast.
Yes, emotionally, right? It's like I can't believe I'm done. So just continue to enjoy it. You have an 18-year-old, so the clock is ticking, right?
One's graduated, one's graduating this year, and then 2 years after that, the next one's graduating. So it's going to be bang, bang, bang. But
no longer babies or anything. They've grown. Yeah.
Nope.
That is amazing. So when you mentioned having served in Afghanistan, thank you first. I want to say thank you for your service. It is definitely all encompassing, whether you go into combat or not, military service, like you said, families serve, definitely families serve. And I don't think the general public realizes that to the depth that we experience it as families. And it's not always an easy life. Definitely. We have been on that journey. It was 34 years as between active duty Army and some break with reserve time. And then my husband came in as a Navy chaplain. And so he retired next month. December will be 4 years. And it was an amazing ride. Overall, like I really feel blessed to be able to have served our country, but it did involve the whole family. And so I do recognize and appreciate you saying that. Also the Operation Enduring Freedom, right? And that was one of my husband's first combat assignments. We were stationed at Camp Pendleton, and as a Navy chaplain, he's the Navy provides the chaplaincy services to the Marine Corps. And so he deployed. One good thing, Navy chaplains cannot carry weapons. So, and I don't know if I don't think any of the chaplaincies can, but they have protection. So that eats me a little, but definitely going into combat. So thank you for that. And your family experienced that. You were married at the time, you mentioned, right? Definitely. Right?
We were actually just married. I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but we got married, and then like a year later, I was deployed. So
oh dear.
So our first 2 years of marriage, we kind of say we were really married 1 year for 2 years. It was because I wasn't there, So
yeah, you weren't there, right? That's common. That's common. Unfortunately, a lot of military couples have gotten married and then the service members shipped off and then sometimes there's children that are born, right? When people are deployed and
my son was one and my daughter was born while I was deployed. So
wow,
she had two new babies and it was tough. She was a hero.
Yes. And you all were where at Fort Hood, Texas at that time? Okay. Okay. Wow. Definitely. So again, tell her I said thank you definitely for her service too, because I recognize that.
Yeah. So you all too.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. People always say thank you for your service outside of the military community. And I'm like, do you want to have a conversation about what you're thanking me for? So, but we say thank you back. So it's good. Right.
Right.
So it's exciting to have you here too, to discuss like your books and your series and all of those things. And so it's really fascinating that you all are an author team. Like you said, your wife plays a role in with the books and producing them and getting them out. And so, and you have such a focus on like historical, right? Would that I think would be considered historical fiction category? Am I right? Yeah. And the amazing amount of research that you have to do to like really show up, right? Amazing. So I think that's fabulous. That's really good. And so when you with the piece that like in terms of your experiences, right, with being military and then homeschooling, how did you kind of pull that into storytelling and like specifically into your like Revolutionary War series? Like what inspired you to turn like some of your experiences did that?
Absolutely. It did. So I'm actually probably the more hands-on homeschooling parent. I actually struggled in school. English was my worst subject. I'm dyslexic and it went undiagnosed or whatever you'd call it till I was actually in college. So I had paras helping me through English all the way along until I made it to Mrs. Garvey's class. Around about high school, Mrs. Garvey, we had a writing assignment and she wanted me to actually, because a lot of it my para would write for me, and she wanted me to write. And so I wrote it. And of course, being dyslexic and everything, and I hated grammar and just you learn to hate the language because I was bullied. I came to hate school, hate the whole thing.
I hear you.
But Mrs. Garvey looked at what I had written and she looked past the mess and she said, "Man, you are an incredible storyteller." And she actually, she was the first teacher. She told my para, because they were basically just passing me on year after year. I wasn't passing. They were passing me. And so she was the first teacher to grab me and say, "You know what? Leave him in my class. I don't want him to have a para and I'll take him."
Wow.
And so she really started mentoring me. I still had all the issues I would have with English writing, but she nurtured the storyteller in me.
That is amazing.
And so actually the very first book I ever wrote, I went and found her and I gave her a signed copy. I said,
gosh.
For believing in me. But so what came out of that is someone who didn't want kids to hate school though, right? So when it and being bullied and everything, when it came to our own kids, I guess public school to me was just a really unhealthy environment. I just saw what it was and the way that I was passed on rather than like educated. It was just like I felt like an animal at a stockyard.
I follow you. Yes.
And I didn't want my kids to have that same experience. So I was like, we had the sit down powwow, and we were like, okay, we're going to homeschool these kids. Right. Well, then like someone has to actually school them.
Right.
Once you make the decision, someone has to actually do it. That's
right.
Yeah. The road. And so, like I said, I was more the hands-on teacher because I hated school. I wanted my kids to love it. So I labored over making their school, check off all the requirements and everything they needed to learn, but also making sure that they were absorbing it in a way that they actually appreciated it.
Right.
Rather than hated it. How can I make this something? And so when it came to American history, I looked at all the resources available, and I'm sure I haven't seen them all. So if someone has come across great resources, I'm not bashing all, but the resources that we found, our kids went through their founding of the country kind of segment, and I was probing them about it, and they came up with no pride for what it means to be an American, and more than that, with no understanding of the cost of what it cost. People like you and me. We know George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and all the guys, but the signers of the Declaration and Paul Revere. And all these, but we don't know, Joe and Sally who lived on such and such a lane, who gave everything, and went to war, and no one will ever know they existed. Right. But if they didn't go out on the battlefield, and so that's kind of how I felt about the war in Afghanistan too, right? Like you can look at memoirs on every general and colonel that led me over there, but there's nothing written about me and my guys who actually lost buddies over there and paid the price. No one's writing that story. Right. Everybody wants to know about the guys who are behind the desk, but not the guys who are on the field.
On the field. Exactly.
And so I kind of looked at my wife and I said, you know what? I'm going to write a story from the perspective of the people who gave it all, the families. And it was families. It was the families who gave everything to make this country what it is and what they risked. Because in the eyes of the British, we were traitors, all of us. And back then, to be a traitor was a hanging offense. There was no, there was no jail time. You were hung.
You were hung,
And so every American who picked up their farm musket that they used to hunt deer and squirrels with and went out there to face the most elite army on the face of the earth, if they weren't killed on the battlefield, if they were captured, it was probably hanging.
Yes.
That's how they were traitors. And so that part of the history wasn't taught. At least not what my kids were getting, even from the homeschool curriculum. So I set out to write a series that would give kids a sense of appreciation and pride and a deep, profound respect and understanding for the common person, the common American who stepped out on that field and said, I want my kids to have something. And it was a dream. No one in the world had ever done this before. No one had ever tried this. And so, I mean, they risked everything on an idea. It wasn't even like, we know this
like an experiment, right? Like, yes.
So they risked absolutely everything on an experiment that might even fail. They had no idea. And yet, out of love for their children, for their future generations, farmers and blacksmiths and simple people banded together to stand against the greatest superpower in the world at the time.
At the time,
and say that we want our kids to live different. We want our kids to have a world that we've never seen before. We've only ever dreamed it. And we want to give it to them, so that's the story we wanted to write. So our series, each book in the series covers 1 year of the Revolutionary War from that perspective, from the perspective of a common, normal family, serving on the battlefield. And they did too. Washington's army was actually like a moving city. The wives and the children, they moved along with that thing.
Wow. What a sacrifice. What sacrifices, right? What a life. Like, wow. And that's what gosh, I have so many questions from all you just said. So I'm excited. First off, I should say I love history.
Yeah, me too.
And I hear, like, even when you speak, you're a storyteller, right? Like, not just in your writing. And so you have drawn, like, I know our listeners and viewers will be like, oh gosh, tell me more, which is ideally when people read your book, they're like, I want more.
Right.
And so, but this is really is amazing. But like for me, when history can come alive, that was a goal we had for our kids too. Obviously, I not in a way that you went about it and for your reasons, which I totally hear you, and wanting to provide that experience for your kids, right? Where they actually love learning and they're confident learners and they are able to like look at things and determine what's fact and fiction and all of the things, right? What's truth. And so I hear that. And for us, that was important too. And so as a military family, still active duty for all those years that we were, as we moved around, it was important for us to really dig into history as it is still existed, historical sites and the historical fiction that like we didn't have your access to yours, but those kinds of things to really like help our kids like see themselves in history, right? And see the role that real people played.
Right. And that's the challenge of history is that like, if you think about it with math, you can experience it, right? You can do math UC, you can get out the blocks, you can do the apples. If he has this many apples and you take them away, science, you can do the experiences, experiments, you can experience it, but history, how do you experience history? I think fiction is one of the most powerful tools to allow a person to experience history because it's one of the few subjects that you can't just go out there and experience. You can experience physics, you can experience all the other
That's so true. Yeah.
All the other academics, but history
I think it's about events that have passed that you may not have been part of, right?
So historical fiction allows you to put the people there so that they can feel it. Right. And it makes it real to them. And once it's real to them on the inside, now they've experienced history. Now history will stick because now they can say they were there. Yeah. And that's the power of historical fiction. I really feel that was at least my heart in writing that series, was to put my kids there so that they would walk away saying I felt it. And not bragging, but like that was the experience. Our kids have read our books. Actually, we had them help edit it. You want to know what that was? A cheat code.
That was
we're gonna do English. We're gonna do English today, and you're gonna edit Dad's book.
Right, and that's the hands-on that you talked about, right? You said you're a hands-on parent. Love it. This is real life. We're gonna get in the weeds and we're gonna edit. I love it.
I have pictures of my kids holding the manuscript with sharp, highlighters and pencils, and they're and they'll be like, Dad, you made a mistake here. And I'd be like, good job.
Yeah. Or you could use another verb here, another adjective or something. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. The interesting thing also is, there are the textbooks, like you said, that cover history and that your children were looking and they were like, it just wasn't cutting it. And it wasn't going to meet the goal you and your wife had, right, for your children and their learning. And so historical fiction is so much more exciting, so much more, you can go into the series, into the book and actually feel so much a part of it in a way that a textbook really is hard to do, right? It just really is. It's so limiting, the textbooks. I mean, they're so factual. But you can bring those facts into historical fiction, which is what you've done, right?
Right. Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah. So that's really good.
And for the homeschool parents, we put a glossary into every book because part of it too is I wanted to expand my kids' vocabulary. I saw a stat that like every year, American vocab is getting less and less, the words that people use. And I was like, that's so sad that we're losing depth of language. So I use a lot of words that are maybe bigger words, but we put them all in the glossary so kids can figure out what they mean and then add them to their own vocabulary. And then we also made a quiz for each book too, so that parents can track, are they picking up on the historical factual stuff? Are they picking up on it or not? And we've had actually pretty good response on that too, that parents are enjoying the quizzes and that it's sticking because you're putting the kid there.
Right. Yes, definitely. I did see that. And we want to make sure that we'll put out the links and all. So I know if you're listening and you're like, oh, how do I find this series? And let me see what he's talking about and all. Because some kids do want that kind of like paper pencil quiz kind of thing. But then there's others who can narrate back to you exactly what the story was about and what is happening with the characters and the theme and the setting. And so I think giving them options like that is really good. And then causing them to like, you know, when you're in a historical fiction and it has grabbed you, vocabulary becomes important. You want to know what that word means, because you're like, I need to know, because it might be tying into something that's going to take me a little bit deeper into the story, right? And so it's awesome. I have never even thought and seen that you have like the glossary so that the students don't feel stuck with the words. And then you're raising them up, that literacy level, up. Yeah, which is what we want to do as homeschoolers anyway. So that's so good. So your Revolutionary War series that we've been talking about for the middle grade and all, and obviously, you know, for maybe older kids, whoever, it's, you know, it's there for them to read. And so, and how you said like America's founding and like bringing it through the lives of like ordinary families who made a difference and who caused us to be successful in our independence. So it wasn't always the big leaders, and, you know, not taking anything away from like George Washington and all, but there were the players that no one knows about that made the difference in day to day. Right. And so how do you balance like that historical accuracy that we've been talking about with creating those relatable stories for kids for today? Like what is some of the nuances there?
I'll tell you, it's a challenge because like you said, I love history, and I could spend hours. And that was the hard thing is some days I would get stuck going down the rabbit hole because I'm like, man, I was never taught this in history class. And you're just gobbling it up, and it's like at some point you got to write today. You know? But I think I don't know. I really do think it's a God-given thing to be able to take. I would take the historical events and then just put myself there as a kid, you know. And I think being a combat veteran and seeing how it affected me being in combat and how it affected my family allowed me to do that with the characters and say, this is how it would affect, you know, the daughter of this soldier. Seeing her dad march out on the green. This is what would be going through her heart, because I can ask my kids. I can ask my wife and be like, is this what it was like when dad was gone, you know? And same thing, being the soldier on the other side, you know, it tears us up too. No, you know, being away from our family and wondering about our family and how are things going at home and are we going to make it home? You know,
are you going to make it home?
Times haven't changed. Those guys marching out on the green or you know, half the time, if you read the series, you're going to find out that we weren't good at war at all. We were really good at running away, and that's actually how we won. We ran all over the country and spread the British army so thin. We were experts at retreat, and that's actually how we won. That's why one of our books is actually titled Defiant Retreat, because that's what it was. The British were like, why won't they die? And Washington's like, we can't win, but we can run.
Well, we can run, we can retreat and regather again,
And we couldn't just back then they couldn't pick up a phone. They had to write paper letters that might get intercepted by the enemy, that, you know what I mean? And all this different stuff. And the cool thing too is, for anyone interested, you can look at so many of those letters still exist. You can go online and there's actually, I should have been more prepared, but there's actually a website.
Oh, it's okay. You're doing great.
Dedicated to letters from the Revolutionary War that were written between, you know, moms and sons or husbands and wives and if you want to have your heart ripped out, read some of those verses, because a lot of that went into the books too, is just reading I have that stuff to play off of and say, this is what it was like for these people. So a lot of my research too was that really interpersonal stuff between husbands and wives, and like I said, mothers and sons, and you know, talking about where they're marching and losing friends and freezing at Valley Forge, you know, and guys freezing to death in their beds and like all that stuff. And then, I mean, we didn't understand psychology like we do today. We didn't understand a lot of stuff. So those guys, and talk about faith. I mean, back then they didn't have self-help books or any of this stuff. It was faith.
Right.
It was literally faith or famine. I mean,
Yes,
they had
definitely.
to lean heavily on their faith and say, God, get me through this storm, because I don't think the human
Right.
soul, whether it's 2025 or 1775,
Right.
was created to do that to another person and stuff. In those conflicts, we
Right.
weren't made
Yeah.
for that. And
Right.
so it
Right.
takes a
I
toll on
agree.
the soul.
It
Uh,
does. Mm-hmm.
and that's another thing that I wanted to put into our books is,
Mm-hmm.
especially for veteran families and kids and whatnot, I want them to be able to see themselves in that, and to be able to say,
Mm-hmm.
when the families read it together, for the kids to be like, Daddy, that's what it's like. When you're away,
Yes. Oh, wow.
that's how it hits me when you're, and for fathers to be like, when I'm away, this is how it hits me. This
Yes.
is the stuff that I've had a hard time putting into words, but it's like this for me when I'm away.
Yes. This
And
is me. Right.
right.
Exactly.
And so the kids,
Wow.
the military kids, especially reading these stories, should be able to say, my feelings aren't weird. My
Mm-hmm.
emotions aren't weird. I can be
Mm-hmm.
both proud of daddy or mommy, serving,
Mm-hmm.
and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, wish they would come home and wish this whole thing would
Right.
end, and wish
Right.
both of those can be true.
Both
I
of them. Right.
can both be
Right.
proud of them and what they're doing, and wish
Yeah.
they were home with me right now
Yeah.
at the same
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
it's not wrong for me. It's not selfish for me to want them home. That's where mommy and
Right.
daddy are supposed to be, And
Right.
so,
Yes.
we've actually it's been kind of neat to see how many different veteran families have actually left reviews like that saying,
Yes. Yes.
this has
I'm
helped
sure.
helped our families, almost like
Mhm.
therapy, to read these
Right.
stories and say, someone can relate to us.
Someone
We're
can relate.
right.
Exactly.
These emotions aren't wrong. These things aren't wrong. They're
Mhm.
actually, they've been around since 1775 at least,
Right. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I love that because so much of what we hear, and I think as military families, what we take on
Mm-hmm.
is this idea of how resilient we are, right?
Right.
And how we push through, and how, military spouses, we get it done, even in
Yep.
deployments with, and while all of that's true, and I think I'm one of the biggest fans of us as military families, truly, right? My
Yep.
husband said, you almost could have served. I said, no, I couldn't have served, but I can definitely be a cheerleader on the sides. And so, but
Yep.
still, the reality, like you said, is both can exist. Like we can
Right.
be all in, patriotic, proud
Yep.
to serve,
Yep.
but also say, gosh, this isn't good. This is hard. This is
Yep.
challenging. And we want our loved ones home. And I think for kids to be able to see themselves in these stories,
Yep.
right, is so powerful
Yep.
that, because how many times do we really get as military families to pause and say, are our kids really okay?
Right.
Like,
Yep.
are they okay? Like, and so to be able to read books that take them into similar situations where they
Yep.
can see themselves. Yeah,
Yep.
wow, what an amazing thing. And in homeschoolers, what we do, read alouds a lot, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
like this is a whole family thing. It's not
Yep.
necessarily always just a child reading, it's the whole family. It's reading your stories.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, it's amazing. So I can see why you get a lot of responses from veterans, and
Yep.
because this is their life. And like you said, your military service, like who would have known? Like amazing how God uses things, and
Right.
like
Yeah.
with your learning challenges, and like
Yep.
you said, and being passed on, and thinking like, and now
Yep.
look, wow, like military service, which
Yep.
is so hard, and to go into combat, come back home, praise
Yep.
God, and now be able to use like all of that for
Yep.
God's glory
Right.
in these books, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yep. I
phenomenal.
couldn't have picked it myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
You wouldn't have known to pick it yourself.
Yep.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely amazing. So let's talk a little bit about this co-authorship. What is that like? Like you're the writer, and your wife does. Tell me again exactly what she does, because there's no she's doing design, right? I think. And
Yep.
I don't
So
want to minimize it. So tell me.
no. So I do the writing, pretty much all the writing stuff. So like the writing, the back blurbs, like if you go on Amazon and when it's, wants a clip written about the book, I do that. Like any of our advertising, basically anything that needs writing, I do all the writing, which
Got you.
no one told me when I started this author thing, there was so much writing besides the book. You think you write the book and it's like, okay, you got it. No.
You're right.
That's like half the writing. There's so much more writing.
Wow.
And then So I do all the writing. My wife does all the editing. Well, I do 2 edits before my wife gets it, which has really helped my dyslexia. Actually, I've gotten so much better through writing these books. The first book, it took me a long time to write. And then 2 years ago, I wrote five books in 1 year.
Wow.
So it has really helped. Just having to slow down and having to type and having to edit has helped my brain slow down enough to catch it. So if anyone's struggling with dyslexia, just write. Like crazy. That's all I can say. It'll help. Because when you write, it slows your brain down. And the more you do it, the less errors I have. Book by book, they were getting better. My wife will even say it's getting better because that first book. And I've actually I've gone to college for 6 years, and my wife actually, that's where the editing relationship started. She edited all my papers.
Wow.
Or I would have failed college. I did all the writing, and she made sure I passed.
Oh, that's true love. That's true love, I tell you, right?
So that's where the editing relationship was born. But then she also, graphic design is actually what she loves to do. So she does all the cover art, all the advertising art, all the anything to do with art. That's actually the web design, all of our website stuff. I hate technology. I do.
You're hands-on, and sometimes the technology can be like, another type of skill. So that's amazing. Oh, and it's so funny because your wife will probably maybe listen to this, or she may be in the room there, but either way, the editing, right? After someone has written is no joke, right? It's no joke. My husband had pursued his doctorate of ministry, a D-Min. And he's this amazing, preacher and all and everything, but like to come behind, not just with him, but just in general, to come behind someone else's thoughts and try to edit, because you're not only editing like grammar and punctuation, you're editing like content and flow.
Everything.
So it's a lot of work. So, I'm sure she appreciates that you do the 2 edits before, right?
Yeah. And the very first book, it's been a learning relationship, because the very first book, she whacked a whole paragraph of a big scene, right? Without telling me, because she was just in her editing groove, and she was like, this paragraph doesn't need to be here. So she totally whacked the whole thing. So I go through and I do the final read after she edits, because she wants it to still, does this still sound like you? Does it still, did I get the flow right? So she has me do it. So I did the final read through, and I hit that scene, and I knew that paragraph had been there, and it was gone. And I was like, what happened to this paragraph? She's like, it didn't fit. And I'm like, we don't even get to talk about that.
Right. I know. Do I have a say in this? I wrote that.
That's my blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah, and she just totally whacked it. And so she was like, okay. In the future, I said, I have no problem when you take out the little things or tweak. I'm like, but in the future, if we could at least vote on it.
Have a meeting of the minds in the kitchen, maybe, just to say.
Yeah, that was ready to take this. I almost had a stroke. I was like, that paragraph meant something to me.
I put a lot of time and effort into that. So
and she just totally axed it. It was funny.
That's so funny. Yeah, but love perseveres. Love perseveres, definitely.
We survived.
Yeah, you survived, exactly. And you figured it out, right? And that's just what you have to do. You figured it out. So amazing results, though, with your authorship and all. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So you've also written The Last Patriots, right? Series for adults, right? Or for those
young adults, right? Maybe older teens. And that one definitely has the combat experiences. That one covers a lot of the hard stuff, like PTSD. And a lot of that stuff, because when I came home from combat, I could tell we were flying back from Afghanistan, and we stopped for 3 days in Kuwait for some reason on the way back. And I could tell by the 3rd day, I called my wife and I said, when I get home, because when you're in that combat environment for so long, you kind of become an adrenaline junkie. I mean, we were getting troops in contact 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. So you're amped up all the time. And I mean, you can't go to the bathroom at night without wondering if someone's going to come over the wall, right? You're just keyed up all the time.
Yeah.
And so you don't realize how your body is just becoming an adrenaline addict. I mean, I can see how people become war junkies because it's just, you need the fix, right?
Right. That cortisol is running through. Like
on the way home, like 3 days in, I was anything that tripped my trigger, I was ready to murder someone. And it was weird. Anything that stressed me out at all, my instant response was violence. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. I'm like, man, that's crazy. So I wanted to warn my wife. So I called her. She remembers the phone call. And I said, when I get home, I said, I'm fine. But when I get home, I'm going to be weird. I said, I can just tell that I'm going to have to come down from some stuff, So,
right.
And since then, I've run into a lot of veterans. We actually have a mini campground on our farm here. We do agritourism. And so we've had a lot of veterans come, and I love sitting down around the fire with them. And like, no one understands a vet like a vet,
Right.
So I wanted to put that in the book so any vet that picked it up could understand, again, that their emotions, feelings, and everything, those are all normal. Like we all go through that stuff. But then also, again, there's a faith side of that. You can come out the other side. Like that doesn't have to be your life forever. There is healing, there is recovery, there is. So that's in the adult series. And what the Last Patriot series is really about is if we keep going the way we're going, and keep hating, if this country keeps hating on each other, if we keep, and if this whole thing was to fall apart, that those first patriots fought for, if we let the dream die, again, how would that affect a normal average American family? Because and my reason for writing that series was I was looking at all the because I love post-apocalyptic books. Every main character is ex-special forces, right? Like every single time.
Wow.
Like, well, what about the regular guy?
Yeah, right.
I was in the army, but I wasn't special forces. I was just a grunt, right? Like, how would the average family handle this? And especially the average believing family, because you're going to be, because being in Afghanistan, I saw a world that had been torn apart and how the people over there had to live and what it was like having scary people in the backyard, who could show up at any time. And so I wanted to write a book just in case. And what my heart was to write it for my kids, almost like a manual. Like if this ever happens, if I'm not here,
wow.
Here's maybe some ideas that you need to prepare for. So it's written a lot from it's actually it's filled with hope. Honestly, it starts out kind of bleak, but it's filled with hope because if this thing fell apart,
right,
we're gonna have to come to Jesus and find each other again.
Yes,
moment to put the pieces back together again. You know what I mean? And I wanted to write it too more as a warning. Because when I was writing, it was around the maybe the 2020 elections or something, but there were so many people on both sides that were like, let's just do a civil war. And I'm like, clearly none of you have experienced one of those before.
Right. You would not be saying that. Exactly.
If you ever experienced what it is you're calling for, you would be doing everything you could to stop it. And so I wanted to write that series kind of as a warning too, so that when people read the series, it would cause them to slow down and be like, you know what, maybe we should exhaust all other options before we start saying, hey, let's just throw hands, like that's not a good plan.
That's not a good plan. Right.
That is a worst case, last ditch.
Right.
Or, we better exhaust every option before. I think the Lord would see it the same way. I mean, that better be the only option left. And I feel like people are so quick to jump to conflict rather than to see what we still have in common.
Right.
And to grasp for the beliefs that we still have that make us Americans in the first place.
Right.
Exactly. So that series is written more from that angle, as if everything fell apart. What do we do? And how do we maintain our faith in a world that when everything's been taken away? And that's actually the gist. It's written on the back. And maybe the first book, it says, if everything you knew was taken away, would faith, hope, and love be enough? Right. Because it says, abide these three: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love, right?
Love, exactly.
And that is the silver thread through the whole series is if you've got love, you can make it. You
can make it through, right? You can make it through. Yeah. And I think helping people remember that we all love this country, right? We all love this country. And we want the best for this country.
Right.
Exactly. We want our kids to have a country, right?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
it's critical. It's critical. And I love that message. And I love just like even the part, there's so much of what you said that I could focus back on. I know our time is running out, so we could be here for
Yeah.
a while. And so, but it's like I feel like, man, I would love to sit at one of the campfires and just chat some more that you mentioned with the veterans on your land, because there's so much to talk about with that, and to just be able to use the books and write the books as like a vehicle for healing, and for letting people know that you've been there and you see them. You know what I mean? It's amazing. That's just so therapeutic and so useful. So there's just so many things. What do you hope your readers, especially your young readers, take away about patriotism and personal responsibility? What are your thoughts?
That it is something we have to all choose, right? Like you can't choose it for your kids. You can't, it's kind of like faith, right? Like
right.
You have to have your own faith. Mom and dad might have their faith, but you have to have your own. I think the same has to be true for patriotism. You have to do your own research. You have to see it for yourself and understand. And that's why I wanted to write those books, so they could understand what was the beliefs, like what drove these people to start this country. And then hopefully by the end of the series, they can make their own decision of, am I proud to be an American or not? Is this a legacy that I want to be a part of? Or not?
Right.
And is it worth preserving or not? Because isn't that really what's going on right now? Is do we preserve this thing, or do we tear it down and I don't know what we do, but that's really what's on the ballot every election is.
Yeah, like what's the alternative, right? Like where are we going with this? So I agree, definitely. So
and I would also say too, I don't hide the mistakes we made too in the founding of this country. Like it was just a beginning, right? They had never done this before. The world was not a perfect place. I mean, that was a black mark on our history. That's a real part of our history. So we didn't start out perfectly, but they laid out in the all men are created equal the roadmap to get us there, right?
To get us to that piece, right? Exactly.
They laid the foundation so that future generations could go, hey, we need to revisit this, and either we believe this is really true for all men, or we don't believe it at all.
Right. Exactly.
And so we have the Civil War, and we have a whole nother thing that goes down there. But so that's what I wanted. By the end of the series, I'm hoping the readers have enough of the heart of what started this country for them to decide, do I want to be a part of it? Do I want to be a part of that legacy? Is this worth protecting? And not just protecting, but building on, right?
Building on it.
Our founding fathers would want us to keep moving forward, right? They wouldn't want us to stagnate there.
Right. Exactly.
But is this something that we keep building on, and something that because I think that's part of what's happened in this country is we've lost our culture and our identity. And if we don't have the same culture and identity, it's no wonder we can't find each other.
It can be the challenges. Exactly.
But if we could re-arrive at what it means to be an American, and we could all agree on what it means to be an American, we could find each other again. You know?
Yes. That's
and
amazing.
So that's a part of what we got to get, what we got to get done,
what we got to get done still. Right. That's what that's on out. Yeah, definitely. So, gosh, just so many things is that helping students find their own sense of patriotism and their own personal responsibility. In the past couple of years, I've been really focused on teaching 2 classes. Well, I've been teaching a model diplomacy, also helping kids look at our country as a world power, but other countries and the relationship between us and our policies affecting them. The Operation Enduring Freedom and going into an Afghanistan, the whole piece. And I think it's important that we see the world that God created as and understand the interconnectedness of all of us. And then the other class I've been really focusing on this year too is an ethics and civil discourse class. And these are high school level classes, because I really feel like we've lost the ability to have the civil discourse when we disagree. And it's tearing apart our country, and that sense of personal responsibility. How do we communicate when we don't agree? So anyway, you and I think could sit, like I said, by the campfire and have long conversations and everything. So,
we need to be able to have conversations. And if we can't, we've lost it all already. I think you're dead on. We have to be able to have conversations.
Yes, exactly. So, looking ahead, what's next for you? Can you say, because I'm like thinking, okay, what about the 1800, the whole, yeah.
Well, right now I'm actually working on writing a discipleship book for families, believe it or not. So a nonfiction. I don't know why I can't say in one genre, but I write whatever the Lord lays on my heart. But one thing that's come out of these two series is people saying, I love the family dynamics in these series and how these families work. And it kind of dawned on me, like, this isn't how everybody's family works.
Yeah, right.
So taking a biblical, it's basically a biblical discipleship of what family was created to be and how to make your family work that way. Because that's another thing that we've recognized. I'm really involved in our church and stuff. One of the things that we're doing there is discipling young couples in family, and realizing that there's like a whole generation out there that doesn't know how to parent.
Yes.
Doesn't know. And so what that's doing is creating a big problem.
Yes.
And so working on a discipleship book that is really easy to read, really easy to understand, that walks people through God's intention for the family, the whys behind it, the how you do it, so that they have the tools they need to build a family, right? Families are built.
Right.
They don't just happen. You have to build that bad boy.
You have to build that bad boy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that culture and that character. And so that's actually the book I'm working on right now. And then I'm working on another nonfiction series actually about David's mighty men. Written from the perspective of their shield bearers. Nice. Because culturally, all those warriors actually would have had a shield bearer. That's how, like, you read about the one guy and it says, like, he killed, a whole army from sun up to sundown. They had to pry the sword from his hand. Well, the army would have just surrounded him and murdered him if he was alone. So he would have had a shield bearer whose job was to pivot with him and have his back while he was doing the fighting. And how that's kind of how we work with the Lord, that we have a job too, and it's a dance. And the two of them had to know, they ate, drank, slept, did absolutely everything together until they were one mind. Because any slip in combat, and all of a sudden you exposed the back of the warrior, or the warrior exposed your back, and now you're both dead.
Yes.
And so, and it's the funny thing is that's actually the picture. If you really look at it, that's actually the picture of marriage. Is the husband is the warrior and the wife is the shield bearer.
Yeah.
And without one or the other, they're both dead.
Right. It's like this. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Wow. And they both have their roles in the battle, but they're both in the battle. You know what I mean?
Both in the battle. Exactly.
Right. Both in the battle. So that's another book I'm writing. And then I probably will return more to, some of the other historical, but those are the two that the Lord just laid on my heart. And so they're in the works. And all I know is so far, like I said, 5 books in 1 year. If I write what the Lord tells me to write, it just comes to me. And if I try to write what I want to write, it probably won't. So
it won't. Yeah, exactly. So just be obedient. Just go with the flow, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Definitely. He has a plan, and he has clearly used your life as his desire, I believe, is to use everyone's life, but you clearly see how he has used your life. And so it's a phenomenal story. And I'm just so honored to have been able to speak with you and have you on our Base to Base podcast. And this has been phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for all your engagement with us as an organization and in our families. And so we're gonna, for those who are listening and watching later, we're going to have the links and everything. But he has a website that we will list. Definitely to go to jrribby.com. You can, but we'll give you the exact link for that in the show notes, as well as on Facebook. It's still j.e.ribby, so you can find on Facebook as well as on Instagram. So it's all the same for those who are maybe listening later to our audio and says, oh, let me go find because this sounds great. And but so many people already know about your books, and that's phenomenal. But there's such a big world out there, and there's people that need the help and that your books will provide, and the insight that your books provide. It's amazing. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much to you and your wife, to your family, to your service and to her service. And again, this has been another amazing episode of Base to Base Military Homeschooling. We really appreciate you joining us. If you're not following us on social media, then we are, again, Military Homeschoolers Association on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And we have a couple of Facebook groups out there, like we have a military homeschool base to base group, and then we have a military homeschool support group, leader group, if you're a leader of a military homeschool group on an installation. And then here we have our YouTube channel. So please definitely look us up, follow us, and on YouTube, make sure you click that notification bell so you'll know when we do another episode. We really appreciate you all and your support. And again, this has been an amazing episode. So we'll see you at the next episode. Thanks, Joel. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.